Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Imrik. So Imrik is starting at the same city that he did in Mortal Empires of Warhammer 2, the Fortress of Vorag, but the surrounding area has drastically changed. This is no longer the corner or edge of the map, so there have been some new enemies added and some old enemies that have moved away. Most notably, Clan Eshin and Hag Grief have moved off elsewhere, so you're probably not going to encounter them in the early stages of the campaign. Some new enemies that have arrived in the area is Clan Rictus, but I don't consider Clan Rictus to be anywhere near as much of a threat Clan Eshin was at the beginning of a campaign in Warhammer 2. And you've also got Nurgle over here, which is an absolute pushover, and you've got Helmungandst over here, which can actually be quite a bit of a challenge. Grimgor Ironhide is another one that used to be a big problem for Imrik in the early stages of the campaign, but he's all the way over here now, which is definitely something that you can encounter, but not going to be an early game headache. So Imrik's campaign is definitely more interesting than some of the other high elf positions, more challenging, but I think that his campaign was more challenging in Warhammer 2, as is the case in most campaigns in Warhammer 3. Typically speaking, Warhammer 3 is a lot easier than Warhammer 2 campaigns, but I do think mechanically the changes to Warhammer 3 have benefited Imrik quite a bit, because most notably, the change to trade agreements. You no longer need to establish a land or sea connection in order to start a trade agreement, and since the High Elves absolutely rely on trade in Warhammer 3, because Entrepreneur's gone, essentially, it's a lot easier for Imrik to get his finances going, whereas in Warhammer 2, it was an absolute pain. A lot of people would just migrate straight to Ulthuan and just forget about the Fortress of Vorag, just because it was a lot easier to establish trade agreements. So in the terms of recommending this campaign, I do think it's interesting. It's not one of my favorite High Elf campaigns. I definitely prefer some of the others, but in terms of challenging campaigns, it's one of the more challenging High Elf ones. It just comes down to whether or not you particularly like Imrik's mechanics. Going around searching for dragons is definitely good, but I think some of the other High Elves just have more interesting mechanics personally. So this one here, I'd probably recommend playing this on sort of hard difficulty. I reckon that's where the sweet spot is. I don't think this is really the campaign to go to for like ultimate challenge for legendary difficulty. I think that there are more interesting and more challenging campaigns out there if you're looking for that. But if you're just looking for like a reasonable sort of high elf campaign where it's not an absolute pushover, then I reckon around hard or very hard difficulty seems to be the right spot to go for this one, and that's where I'd recommend it. It's definitely a good campaign. It's just not necessarily one of my favorites. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Let me know in the comments below which legendary lord you'd like me to cover next. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.